How much liquid white should I use for the wet on wet technique? Hello and how the hell are you? Welcome to my Greasy Paint channel. In this video, I'm going to share with you a tip on how to apply just the right amount of liquid white for your wet on wet technique. Now, in the artist community, I see this question asked by a lot of beginners. So, here we go. First off, your canvas, whatever size you use, most canvases of today already come pre-primed with gesso. Well, if you have your own gesso, I highly recommend not just getting the white, but the black, because we're gonna make a little gray color. I'm gonna add a little water to it so it flows a little better. And you really need just a small amount of the black, because we're just trying to get this gray. It's okay to prime your canvas over and over again to your, well, whatever texture you want for the gray gesso. I have yet to do a black canvas painting, so I will do that eventually. Just get it really mixed up. Now I'm using a synthetic nylon brush to apply this, which is fine. But when you actually do your paintings, you want to use a natural bristle brush. So just go ahead and get the Bob Ross brand. You'll be fine. Or Bill Alexander. So let's go ahead. We're going to cover this all up with the gray. I'm using an 18 by 24 inch canvas. The thing about gesso is that it dries very, very fast. So if I didn't put a little water in there, it'd probably be a little bit rougher to flow the paint on. Now, another thing I'm going to share with you is that gesso is not liquid white. Those two are two completely different things. A lot of beginners get that mixed up as well. Hang on, I'm actually going to add a little bit more, just a little bit more water. Apply accordingly. The gesso does is it primes the canvas, makes it nice and smooth, and it also protects your canvas. Well, back in the old days when they made these canvases, a lot of oil paints would seep through the back of the canvas, and they came out with gesso, and the gesso also helps protect and make your paintings last a little bit longer. And the more and more gesso you apply, layer after layer, the less tooth your canvas might have. I actually don't prefer them to be that way. I actually like it when it's a little bit on the rough side. But like I said, let me show you the secret tip that I learned. A lot of people either apply too much, most of the time, especially if you're a beginner, too much white, too much liquid white, which we will get to after we put the gesso on and let that dry. Just cover up the entire canvas evenly. And the thing about gesso is, once again, it's acrylic based, so it will dry very, very fast. Depending on the environment you're painting in, you really won't need more than, I'd say, about 15 minutes for it to dry. You go right up to the canvas, feel it, dry to the touch. And this little tip I'm going to share with you today, it's not the fingerprint test. No. Which I will show you anyway. But you might have heard that one already. Okay, we're almost done. We're almost there. So we went from a plain white canvas to a gray one. And if you were setting this canvas up for to turn into a black canvas, you just use black gesso completely. And you cover it on the same way I'm doing. Okay, so we're going to let this dry real quick. Just make sure it's nice and even. And there's no spots that have chunked up or anything. It's fine. Okay, we'll give that 15 minutes.
3 days later.
Okay, painters, we have now turned our white canvas into a gray canvas. Now, it's all dry to the touch, as you can see. So why did we do this? Well, if you watch Bob Ross, it was just important to listen very carefully. When he said a thin coat of liquid white, he meant a very thin coat of liquid white. So first, step one is we're going to shake it up real good, and we just want enough liquid white, so little in fact that just enough to cover the gray. So after you shake it up real good, because you don't want the oil separating from the pigment, especially since it's been sitting there for a while, you want so little of this, I'm not even going to use the jar. I'm going to use the cap and go into it and grab, oh, just about that much to start off with. Now, accordingly, be very careful, because if you're using a smaller canvas, you might want to grab just a little bit of paint. It's very easy to overdo. You can just always add on if you start off with a little, which is what we're going to do now. It's very hard to take away. As you can see, I can tell very easily where liquid white needs to be applied. And by the way, if you're using too much liquid white on your canvas, or a good sign of it is that maybe your clouds aren't coming out right, or it could be the issue of adding highlights to your mountains. Having too much liquid white on your canvas can definitely be a big problem trying to do those things. Very thin. Just enough. Whoops. I'm still using the cap. Just getting what I can from under the cap before I need to go into the jar. You might even be able to get away with what's under the cap if you're using a canvas by 8 by 10 or even something a little bigger than that. And we use liquid white for this technique because the paints we use, the oil paints we use, should be very thick and firm. So if your oil paints are thick and firm and you're not using liquid white, it could be very difficult to spread and blend and mix those paints onto the canvas. And the liquid white is a thinner medium. It's much more runnier. Make sure I just get an even coat all around. There we go. If you add too much liquid white, go clean your brush and go over it once again. And keep doing that until you have your desired amount. It should be, once again, very, very thin. And look at that. I only really needed enough to turn that gray canvas back to white. Okay, now that fingerprint test, which is a very popular way to tell if you have just enough. I'm going to put my finger, well, this one maybe, from this hand, since this one's already runny, on the corner, like that. I'll take another finger, put it on that corner, maybe, some various places. And if you can still see your fingerprints, hopefully you can still see that, hold on. That's the right amount. If you can't see the prints, then that's a good sign that you may have too much white on your canvas. To get rid of those, just going to blend them out like that. That's why I like doing it in the corner. Okay, well, if you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. Be sure to like my page on Facebook and follow me on Instagram. Let's paint together.
Reach the stars and make a wish. Fall asleep and dream a dream. Never stop, just go for it. And what you see